Welcome to the Breakthrough Moments podcast, a podcast where challenges meet opportunities. I'm Harold, and together with my co-host Lasse, we explore stories of innovators, leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs, and how they turn obstacles into game-changing breakthroughs. Get ready for insights that inspire and lessons that last. Subscribe now, and let's dive into the moments that define success. Welcome to today's episode of the Breakthrough Moments podcast. Today, we welcome Aman Rawat, a visionary leader from Fastlane Devs. At Fastlane Devs, they challenge the status quo by integrating AI solutions into everyday business processes, helping companies automate but also innovate. So today, Aman is here to share how their journey has been like and how they are making AI tangible in the startup community, but also in companies in general. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Aman.
Thanks, Harold. Thanks for inviting.
So we had a chat before this where you told me all about Fastlane Devs, what you guys do. But for the people that don't know you, could you give us a brief introduction to what do you guys actually do?
Sure. So at Fastlane Devs, we developed a set of tools for retail and manufacturing industry. So we help them elevate all those tedious tasks through AI. So recently we have released, we are set to release a AI tool called MyPAL. It's a set of agentic framework where, it will help multiple employees at a time to brainstorm together. So what we firmly believe that the power lies within the humans, and if we give more time and more time to think and brainstorm, I think we could achieve a better level of productivity and also the work.
Yeah, because you started and got into this space in general because Fastlane Devs was born out of the technical know-how and also the
Yes.
desire to, let's say, help companies solve technical problems, but in a way that's not necessarily technical for the market. Is that right?
Yeah. So we started with, previously we had a startup, and there we realized that we are good at technical stuff, but we miss certain things, that is operational capacity. So we were kind of working with retail, and we're doing ourselves. But soon did we realize, like, okay, fine, we can develop the platforms, but when it comes to bring that platform and hit to the market and go to the ground, so that time we didn't have that kind of core competency. And soon we started consulting other people as well, startups in this ecosystem, and found out that many of them, they were good at hitting out the ground, bringing the requirements, and also knowing the customer. However, what was the missing linkage there was the technicality, the software part. So we started helping them out there with our skills. So it was a match in that sense.
Yeah, and kind of what's your story like? You mentioned previous startup. What's your entrepreneurial journey been like, and how did you get started out, and what made you, or what was the turn of events that led you to Fastlane Dev as it is today in terms of having this agentic AI product that is supposed to help, let's say, the everyday John Doe and Joe Doe in terms of their daily operations in retail and manufacturing. What's your story?
So I've been a civil engineer, and in the beginning, and I've been working with companies like EDF, and there I got an opportunity to work in a nuclear power plant, and I was managing around 30 people. And there I saw there was communication gaps, there were productivity gaps, also there were knowledge gaps. So people were redundant to ask things because they were afraid of getting judged by someone or their peer or something. Even though my structure, what I have put was very flat, like, every day I'll take some obaya, but it didn't work. So people are, hiding stuff when it comes to like knowledge, where not just giving out, but because people do, when it comes to giving out, we love to share our knowledge, but when it comes to asking things, people have this fear of judgment. So there I realized, if I could make this kind of a collaboration work, not just in terms of our employees or my people, but also in terms of technical know-how, like, what goes in the documentation and everything. So
Hmm.
from there, the idea sparked, which later turned on to a more kind of a tech sort of startup where we were helping uh, other domains with, like, let's say we started with agri-tech.
Hmm.
We wanted farmers to know and to share skills and also know how to bring products to the market. So
Yeah.
that's how I started my journey. And then soon we realized that this is a very, very heavy lifting task to go and help in farmers where they are relying upon you rather than relying upon themselves.
Mm.
So that was the moment I thought, like, now we need to pivot onto something that we are very good at it. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And why AI? Like, was it because like this is all the hype, or was it the
uh,
natural, let's say, leg up based on what you saw on the ground?
First thing, I've been working with data since last 12 years. Despite of being civil engineer, I was very much involved in software part of it, how
Mm.
to uh, build or calculate momentum and how the data is shared between the stakeholders
Yeah.
and how data is important in a nutshell. So from there, I've deployed a few machine learning algorithms to optimize things. Since then, I saw if my small script can save a million euros worth of steel,
Mm.
that, I mean, I was working in nuclear, I can understand. So small script is saving $1 million of steel, which would have been non-existent. That means no one would have looked at it in that way.
Yeah.
So I thought, like, these kind of small things, what it is called. I didn't have any knowledge of AI at that point of time. I
Mm.
just was automating things, and I
Yeah.
found out, like, if this small script can save whole like company €1 million in that. So how about if we do small modifications in productivity? So perhaps it will have a greater role to play,
Yeah.
and hence I came to AI. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have quite an interesting stance, I would say, in regards to AI. A lot of people are like, doomsday AI is going to replace us, or AI is going to change everything. But you have a bit of a different approach in terms of like, you use I remember you used the term augment and
Yes.
enhance rather
And
than
enhance.
replace. Could
Yes.
you elaborate a bit more on how you see AI plays a role in, in businesses and how you use it?
Yes. So look, every employee in a business have a different role and a different receptor, I say them. So let's say a sales guy, let's say, I mean, they will never, or in my experience per se, it's very hard for them to sit down and relax and write things and create strategies around their. They probably will wait for another colleague or marketing to send them presentations and all that stuff, where I think the idea is sometimes what you want, what is going on in your head is lost over the time in the communication as well.
Mm.
Instead of that being expressed outwards toward another human, perhaps what if we give a tool which can help you articulate your thoughts better and make it look what you want? For
Mm.
example, I'll give you my own example. Let's say I want to make a presentation, a pitch deck for my next pitching round, and I might have so many ideas, okay, here, there. So if I translate this to some designer or my marketing team, they won't have same perspective. They
Mm.
might have similar
Yeah.
vision, similar mission, but not same perspective on things. Because my experience is totally different because I've met multiple people talking about this particular agenda. So when I
Mm.
express this to marketing, they come. I mean, it is my own version. So perhaps what they understood is only 10%.
Yeah.
So I think with AI we can really augment and hit the trigger all the time when you know with your own perspective.
Yeah. And I guess then, is it also like, how do you guys do this specifically? Like the in the product that you're about to launch, or that you've developed, like how is that integrating this augment empowering aspect of AI compared to just, or what's the approach there?
Yeah. So we have created a set of pals. The product name is MyPAL.
Yeah.
So MyPAL being my friend. Also, the name is derived from a bit technical, Managed Intelligence Process Acceleration Layer,
Mm.
which hence being MyPAL. The good part here is if you look ChatGPT Claude, at a point you'll hit the limit. It doesn't know what exactly the context is. Sometimes you get after you have to train it through prompts multiple times to get the end result. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't get it. So
Yeah.
what we have done is like we have agentic framework where you just show your intent. Let's say I want to analyze a data set. So data set can be huge. And let's say you have a meeting in 10 minutes. And normally people are good at crunching numbers, but in 10 minutes, no one can do that fast, right? Creating graphs, insights, reports, and all that stuff. Our agents do that. You just plain English, plain Swedish. You just ask them. They'll analyze the data. They'll even provide the in-depth analysis, and also it will take your input. Second thing
Mm.
is it's mostly with the data that we have around probably lying down in the company. Let's say you are what do you call project bidder, so the bidding team that looks at the market and sees where to they can find the next project. So in companies, what happens is like if you have multiple offices, you might have applied for same project. The experience are even they are shared through Zoom call or meeting, but they are lost over time because we tend to forget things.
Yeah.
AI is very good at it. It's very good at chunking, bringing down the information. What we have done is to create the relationship between them,
Mm.
how this information was used and how it can be helpful for this particular scenario, and explaining the user or the employee at the time like this is your intent and we kind of
Mm.
understand the intent, and slowly we create the personalization layer which becomes a pal which can be shared with your colleague. Let's say you're on holiday
Yeah.
and you want to make I mean your colleague needs to make a important presentation tomorrow and you're in the beach,
Yeah.
right? You have given the PAL access with, of course, with certain restrictions. They can make those presentations by themselves, present it, and you get the project or the client onboarded.
Yeah.
So that's the power of MyPal. And we are in active talks with industry. So we have developed certain complex specific PALs to our companies. So let's say we have a customer that their constant task is to analyze their market share, play with the
Mm.
prices, see what works for them. So these are called optimization and scenario testing, where it's done at the executive level of management. However, the data is provided by the operations team. What
Mm.
happens for any scenario you have to do, you have to call operation team. They'll crunch the data and kind of doing same repetitive task and then sending it out. So what we have done, hey, your intelligence is important. Operations team, data scientists, you are crucial to us
Yeah.
or crucial to the company. Do your thing once, give it to the Paul, and then Paul will help the executive to run the scenario automatically multiple
Yeah.
times. That is what
Mm.
we are delivering to the enterprises right now.
That's interesting. There's a lot of, let's say, hype around the word of agents these days, and then
Yes.
you have RAG, and then which is basically is memory and the relevant data fetching, and then you have this like prompt sequencing and prompt chains. Like,
Yep.
how do you see that each of these play a role, or are you guys using a mix of all of them, or how do you? Again, I understand that some IP can't be necessarily shared,
Yeah.
but like if someone wants to get into and get a better understanding, okay, what's an AI agent? What's all of these different terms? Like,
Mhm.
how would you describe them?
So to look at agent, what it does is like every time we take a common use case language model like ChatGPT per se or Claude, which are very good models. So what happens is like you have to tell it every single time that I want to do this. Hence,
Mm.
so let's say you are doing some complex job, it will take around 5 to 6 minutes to tell LLM every time that you're doing this and you want certain kind of results. So there's a lot of iteration there. So perhaps you lose some amount of time there.
Yeah.
However, agents are very specific. It can be done through, as you discussed, prompt sequencing, prompting. Basic agents can be done. Specific LLM, just prompt is given and they become an agent. So we can start from there to where we use complex framework like AutoGen
Yeah.
and the graph sequencing, and these are fairly complex type of agents, right? So where multiple agents with different scenario playing, they come and they collaborate and then they produce results and they self-check. There are guardrails, methodologies around it. So for those complex scenario, but if someone wants to start, they can just understand this way. You take a LLM, you just give some kind of a specific task to it, and then take another LLM, give it in a specific task. Hence, these are two different agents.
Yeah.
Basic, yeah. And then you can go ahead and do, let's say, you can do RAG, you can do graph RAG, which is way much better. In our initial testing and evaluation, it has shown some sparking results. And then you can use agents where they can have their self memory, uh, not just, I mean, user specific. That means it has the context and the intent.
Mm.
So which makes it more powerful over the RAG agents where you have to search the documents and search the embeddings all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the difference between just normal RAG and what's a graph that you mentioned?
Yeah, so basically, if you look at I mean, how do you retrieve? Let's say I'm asking for something, it will retrieve the context from the embeddings that I've generated. So what happens is like you have a vector data. So vector data, you can imagine a 3D space. And according to the, let's say, iPhone, Apple, AirPods, they will be placed in a very near to each other, these words, or we call them tokens, right? And they are in a 3D space, right? And then when you send your query, which is your intent, what do you want to search for? So it will see how near or far are you from that query, and then it will retrieve that particular area and then bring that particular document for you. So that is a basic RAG. However, graph RAG, there is a relationship to that as well. So you have this plus how this particular information is linked to another thing. Let's say how this document is linked to Herald. And so perhaps Aman is asking the question, right? And has proper permissions. I've never used it before, but I'm using it now. So it will go and traverse the scenario and bring that particular kind of information. That means just using normal vector data is limited to that. But when you use GraphRag and these kind of techniques, it can go in depth of the data and bring out solutions, I mean, the results very fast and efficient way and with the high probability rate. That's very important. High
Yeah.
probability. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been into and I've used a lot of, let's say, the normal vectors storage and vector databases with semantic
Yeah.
search by using
Yeah.
embeddings. What tools would be used for GraphRag? Like, is it a set of tools like Pinecone is typically for vector databases and some of the other open source, or it has GraphRag been a layer added on top by all of these normal vector storage providers?
No, it's a type of database. So there are databases like Neo4j, which again was from Sweden, now became international. Then there's AstraDB. They have graph and they have vector as well, separate layer. And there's one company, I kind of forgot their name, but we just had, I mean, my innovation manager just had a meeting with them. I'll forward you that name. I forgot. It's a very new company. They're claiming quite good speeds, but I'm still skeptical. But yeah, I would give them a shot in our testing because they're startups.
Yeah, that's interesting. But this space moves so fast.
Yeah.
like even though I'm into AI in general, like GraphRag, I haven't heard about it. So then I had to ask that question. But one thing that I want to move on to is one of the things that you guys are doing are you're working with a lot of companies making, let's say, the MyPAL and AI tangible for someone. Like,
Yeah.
what type of objections do you typically see and hear? And what do you do to make someone see the actual value in actual AI for their use case?
Mostly, I mean, if you look, there are two perspectives. I think we spoke about it. So there's, since we work in two geographies predominantly, it's European and American. When we talk about American customers, anything new, anything innovative, we get like a go right
Mm,
there. So if they have budget and something is innovating, intriguing, they'll give a chance. However, what happens here in this ecosystem, people are willing to give a shot. I'll come back to the other questions they ask, but they're willing to take a shot, but they are very much skeptical about your capabilities.
mm,
So it's very, I won't say very difficult, but it's difficult for startups today to showcase for companies like, hey, you can rely upon us. So without having a POC, even to move that POC, they have sometimes asked companies like us, have you had POC with someone else?
mm,
So I don't understand the question there. Where chicken came first or egg? So it's that kind of question. So we are in innovation space. So probably you are asking us the question. We are providing you the solution. But at a point, you need to trust us as well.
yeah.
Let's go small. Let's go small. Let's do it. Then you'll know. So many companies are skeptical like that, but I found a workaround for that. So I'll just give you this thing because many startups today would like to hear this. How do you work around these kind of situations, right? So don't get shattered when they ask, what are your case studies? Make your own case study. Go give your product to a certain extent to for those who are willing to. Sit with
Mm,
them, give them the product.
yeah. So
That's it. That's
basically,
how.
deliver it for free to build a case study, so to have those case studies to back you up when they
Absolutely.
start to commercialize.
Absolutely. Because it's very hard space to crack in. And a lot of companies have raised funds and they have more power and muscle, I would say, to,
Yeah.
rapidly develop that kind of space. So these are the some techniques. So now coming back to the another question that you asked, what do they typically ask? So
Hmm.
their biggest concern is the data privacy.
Mm,
Our data be reaching to OpenAI or Anthropic. So you need to make sure that when you're talking to these customers, if they are if they are privacy, looking for privacy, you have to make sure that you have these guardrails, these implementations that you can show somehow that it will run on your cloud, on your prem. It won't go anywhere else. Let the big companies claim that they don't do. Perhaps they don't do, but it's a black box. You don't know.
yeah.
So be cautious there. So tell truth to 99% I would suggest, but 1% you have to play around things. That is for sure. Yeah, the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I like the entire idea of like how to crack into a market, how to really be able to nudge in there and get a spot. And this is one of the things that we told a lot of the, let's say, the people that has been through our accelerator or incubator programs. Like it's probably like 350 at this moment, and they were like, when you get the first one, your very first goal is to build a case study. And you
Yes.
can't do that by going ahead and saying, "Oh, we're charging $5,000 a month, that's the starting price." Like the barrier of entry is going to be super high. But if
Yeah.
you get in there, you deliver to a couple of clients, get maybe 3 to 5 case studies, like, okay, this is the feedback, you improve, this is a case study and the story and the testimonial and the social proof, and it's going to be way easier because, as you said, then you can refer to those as your own case studies. Like,
Absolutely.
look at this, this is how we did it already. And this
Yeah.
was the takeaway, this was the feedback, this was the before and after, and it becomes tangible, and then you have proof. So I really like that you highlighted that also for not just other types of businesses, but also just in general tech and startups. But when it comes to kind of like the next step, you mentioned all the way in the beginning that you were into and you have been working at this power nuclear plant, like it being a engineer from beforehand. Was that the reason why you guys chose manufacturing and retail as a couple of the industries that you decided to go for?
No, 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 that was not the case because once we started Fastlane Devs, and I was kind of helping startups to fill the gap of technology,
Mm-hmm.
we stumbled upon a retail company from United States, which had very big plans, very big ideas, and they were kind of using multiple infrastructure to, do their job and get things done. However, they were losing a lot of efficiency, and these breakdowns were happening. Employees were stealing from the stores. They didn't know that. We discovered it later, but yeah, and a lot of things were happening where they were kind of not getting the net profit that they were expecting, which in their calculation they were supposed to make. And to grow in retail space and where profit margins are very thin, it's a hard job. It's a really hard job. So we kind of had a discussion with them, and they liked our idea because I knew from my previous work that operationally things are challenging sometimes. Things take time, and if you don't have data and if you don't have streamlined processes, our business can fall flat.
Yeah.
So they were kind of making good revenue at that point of time when they met us. From there, 2 years back, and today we have increased their revenue 2.5x. So, yes,
Really? And that's the
yes.
result of process analysis and ensuring the process is
And
solid.
completely, that is only we just streamlined their digital processes and their management and their operations, how the company function around the different stacks of no code tools, whereas
Mm-hmm.
the things that we provided, we have seen significant. I'm telling you the sales figure, the revenue today.
Yeah.
So, second thing what they observed here was the cost. We found that like they had around 20 stores, and the prominent stores, they were facing a lot of challenges, and we found
Mm-hmm.
that inventories were missing, and hence we found that there were a loss of shrinkage of around 20K per month on one store due
Hmm.
to certain kind of anomalies. And our AI was able to detect that.
Yeah.
And that's how I showed the case. They didn't ask us to do that. They didn't ask us to do that. We were kind of giving them a 10% extra from what we have initially promised. So we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hit that extra mile and show our capabilities in the AI sector. Because in the beginning, everyone will say and come to you and say, "Hey, I don't have budget for that,"
Yeah.
right? When they saw that 10%, and which they got for free, was saving and was showing them, "Hey, you're losing 20K here." That made sense for them to spend some kind of money to develop other AI agents where they can enhance their marketing team and productivity in their team and see
Yeah.
what results they are getting. So I think that's how we know each other as well through that campaign part where we were specifically telling how it can be done
Mm.
and through AI how it can be done efficiently. So these things we did out of the our dedication towards the client itself, but later then we got much more bigger project and assignment that was that helped us also innovate.
Yeah.
Yep,
And that's interesting. So basically, again, you're just showcasing and demonstrating an example for how to get the case study, how to get the foot in the door for a
absolutely,
new product that typically otherwise would have been met with, or we don't have the budget, or we're skeptical, like what's your credentials and all of these things.
absolutely.
One thing that I'm curious about is like we've talked about, and you mentioned like how this is going to augment and empower people. But
Yeah.
based on your perspective, in terms of what you've done with process automations and AI so far for companies in retail and non-consumer manufacturing, if you were to look into the looking glass 10 years ahead or 5 years ahead, and we touched a bit upon this before we hit record, like where do you think we would be in, let's say, 2030, and how has this changed companies or AI changed companies in the industries that you're going after?
Let's look before going forward. Let's look the previous era, pre-mobile, pre-smartphones. We used to have bank tellers writing things. Okay,
Yeah.
now which is completely total different story. But if there are advancements, we have the change in the jobs have been proportionate as well. If you look at the dawn of the telephone, the new BPOs were created, right? New jobs were created there. So today, what is the underlying challenge for companies is they have to go. I mean, I'm not talking about small businesses here, because small businesses are, I think, the most efficient businesses. I think in my if done right, because they are on top of things. When it comes to large organizations, they are laggards in many respects. That's why they are slow in decision making. They have complex processes, onboarding, offboarding. I mean, they are
Yeah.
due to some security reasons and all that stuff. So what I see in the future, these processes that are getting them slow will be super fast. So the people there might get replaced, I would say, but it will also open the opportunity for these people to, particularly train that particular kind of AI, and also to do some kind of a reinforcement learning, or perhaps, do something that they particularly enjoy. So who
Yeah.
enjoys data entry?
Good question.
Yeah, that's
I don't know anyone that does that. But it's a necessary evil, I would say, at this point.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've met many prospects and clients where they have whole team just making schedules. And believe me, the schedule is really complex part, and no one have so far cracked to get a right schedule, optimized schedule. There's always something. So how 70 to 80% it can be boosted through AI, and rest we do verification. We do the all human essence where when it comes to empathy, emotion. So can we focus on that part? And also coming to another point, in this modern world, sitting behind screens, checking our phones, how less empathetic we have become.
Yeah.
If we ask that questions. So perhaps AI can give us this chance to become more connected towards our human aspect. So I'm not saying it will free your time. Free your time will it's not it doesn't make sense. But it can give you some extra boost where you can enhance these kinds of skill that is necessary for future generations, and also where these technology has to be countered with empathy and emotions as well.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's
think.
interesting. I think time will tell then, in terms of where we end when it comes to 2030.
This is my
Because
perspective, and I
yeah,
firmly believe where these things are quite important as an AI developer myself, as a company where we put these things into place, not just thinking, hey, okay, I'll increase your productivity, but also thinking these kinds of small things that will make some certain the AI work how we want. Because,
yeah,
this is just a knife given to Master Chef. It will make you the superb dish, and given to a criminal, it might be very bad.
yeah. It
So
might
yeah.
turn lethal. It's I keep on being fascinated by use cases, and it's interesting how one thing could be wrapped completely different, and the
Yes.
entire product and experience and outcome is different. I gave you a bit of a heads up because this has been super interesting, and I've learned a lot of things. Even as we're both into AI, like this is what I find so interesting and fascinating when you're involved in a so fast moving industry, is that no matter how much you're into it, there's always someone else into it that can fill and add in things because you can't stay on top of absolutely everything. But I have one question that I end every episode with, and I gave a bit of a heads up, and you gave me a hint to what the answer would be, but I'm curious to hear the full one and the reasoning. And the question goes like this, Aman. If you can get an answer to one question related to your business and what you do, what would that question be, and what would you want to know or learn?
Interesting. So, as a business person and a CEO, my constant role is to meet people and also not both sides, like be it on our customer side or be it our employees or people. So, knowing the intentions of both sides is very something that I'm always fascinated. I'm a student of psychology. I read a lot of psychology related books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes in terms of business, when I look at the clients and when we show these kind of products to them, they're super fascinated. But when the time comes to take some action, they're super slow. Sometimes they'll come, but sometimes it's super slow. So I want to learn something where, what are those necessary words and the wordplay that we have sparked the interest, that is for sure. That will lead to an action. And I kind of figured it out to an extent where, as we were speaking, getting them why and making them act. But it's different when you're talking to CEO, decision maker, it's quite fast. It's no doubt there. They're quite effective in that manner. But when you're talking to mid-management and executives that are a bit sloppy, it's a bit difficult to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what's happening in the mind of a prospect that stops them from taking action, basically.
Exactly.
The Holy
You got me.
There's probably an AI for that at some point that can tap into your Zoom meetings, analyze all the emails. I know someone, and he's actually in the board of advisors in our company. They developed a AI, or not an AI, or actually a true AI, not an LLM, just and a neural network that basically analyzed both the messaging and feeling that a video has for a second by second. So, like, what type of feeling do you actually communicate and is being, let's say, inhabited in every second of a video? And technology like that, embedded into, let's say, a sales process, you never know. We have a couple of interesting years before 2030. Maybe something like that will come up.
I'm surely looking for that kind of technology. So this will be a game changer, I believe, not just in terms of technology itself, but look at the self-confidence of the person who's presenting the idea, ways to improve, and also next time when they present, okay, they are totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like the tonality, your speed of speech, your attitude, like your posture, all of these things goes into
everything.
Analysis. Yeah, I think we have 6 very interesting years ahead of us, or 5 soon to be, until 2030. And I think it's going to be a joy of a ride. But Aman, if someone wants to learn more, reach out, what's the best places to go?
So they can reach us out on LinkedIn and Twitter. So our LinkedIn handle is LinkedIn.com/company/Fastlane Devs. And if someone wants to reach out to me personally, it's just search Aman Rawat or
yeah. We're going to make sure that your link at least is in the description and in show notes. But Aman, I learned a lot. I got a couple of things that I need to put on my research list in terms of GraphRag and a couple of the tools that you mentioned. But I wish you all the luck with the launch of MyPAL and bringing that to market at a larger scale. And it's been a pleasure to have you on, so thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Harold. It was a pleasure, and always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you. Have a nice one.
You too.
Bye-bye.